Hi everyone, welcome to part 6 of the Trumpeter 1/48 scale U-boat build, the U-552. And for those of you who know the kit, it's a huge kit. By the way, it's Ted here, Ted from eModels, emodels.co.uk. And in this episode we're going to look at doing some weathering of the engine. As I promised you in the last video, when we put the engine together with all those tiny bits that either ended up on the engine or ended up on the floor, we've finally got it together, and I've got the engine installed on the engine beds in the engine room. And as I promised you, we're going to have a look at some weathering, which ties us in quite nicely actually, because I had a few questions from one or two of you guys out there, the viewers, who said, or they've asked if we could have a recap on the weathering, how the weathering goes together in each compartment. All the weathering in the compartment sort of follows the same procedure, but I thought it's an ideal time, if I'm going to show you some weathering on the engine, I might as well show you the weathering on the compartment as well. So just to show how it all ties together. So we'll have a look at making the engine, the bulkheads, the decks, and everything a bit grubby and looking as though it's been used and seen a bit of action. So without further ado, we'll get across here on the bench and we'll show you where we're up to at the moment, and let's get grubby. Okay, see you in a minute. Right, here we are, ready to do some weathering on the engine. As you saw last time, we got it all painted, but now I've put all the parts on it finally without losing any. I don't think I've lost any at the moment anyway. And now it's time to get it weathered. I've taken the opportunity to put it on the engine beds. One, it makes it easier to hold as I can do it. I've also put the bulkhead on this end, so it makes it easier to hold. Plus, when we come to do weathering, it'll tie it all together. We can get it all tied together rather than sort of doing it individually, putting it together, and then sort of having to put a final finish on it. So right, well, what do we need to do this? Well, we'll just put this to one side. I'll show you the rest in a minute. We'll put that to one side. I'll show you what we're going to use. First of all, you need some gloves, because this does get quite messy. And then what I've used to gunk it all up is obviously, as everybody knows, Starship Filth, the Epsilon 502, the oil in a tube. Another favourite of mine is the 502 Epsilon engine grease. Obviously works well in an engine room. Yeah, it's a really nice colour. A sort of a browny black, if that's the right term, a browny black. Yeah, but it sort of gives a nice shade to the engine. And obviously I've got the oil brusher. This is Starship Filth as well. It's sort of a ready mixed version of this, but it's useful for getting in one or two places. A selection of brushes. I've got a nice wide brush here. I've got a chisel brush somewhere, but I just can't put my hands on it. A nice flat brush or a chisel brush, just for blending everything together. A bigger one if we need it, and a few smaller ones. And one or two others. I thought I got them out, just for getting it on, blending everything in. Some odorless thinners. What else do we need? Oh yeah, to clean it all up, to get it all the gunk wash and everything cleaned off. Some cotton buds, and one or two pieces of t-shirt type material, and it's doing no good for my white balance at all, but one or two pieces of t-shirt type material, and that'll do it. And a bit of a palette if you need to mix things up, or thin I can't say it, I haven't got my teeth in, thin things down. Right, what we've done on this, well, we'll bring it back in, and if I turn it over, what you can see immediately is just by applying a gunk wash on the back of the engine. You can see how it alters the tone of that green straight away. Let's have a look at the other camera, see if they can pick this up a little bit better. There, we can see in there with a few bits of streaks from the oil brusher, and the change in colour from the front to the back. Now I was just trying things out on the back here, because obviously when everything goes together you're never going to see the back of this, so I thought I'd give it a try out, see what the colours did, and then I can come along and show you guys. And you can see the difference on the top there. I think that shows better up on the other one, doesn't it? There, you can see the difference in the colour, and that's just from a simple gunk wash. We'll add more effects and we'll do some dry brushing and such on that as it goes along. Right, let's get on and we'll get the first couple of washes done, and we'll start and we'll work on the engine first, because we'll work on the bulkhead and the engine beds and everything shortly. Right, I'll go and get everything ready, and we'll do some washes on this. It'll be a bit of fun. See you in a minute. Right, we're ready to go. All we've done, I've just taken some of the that's the wrong one. I've just taken some of the engine grease and just put a very small amount just in a pallet. We'll do in a pallet for now, because when we come down to make a wash and things later, we can use what's left, so nothing gets wasted. If you haven't seen a gunk wash before, this is how one is done. It's just a matter of taking your brush, taking some of the oil on it, and just as we say, slap it on. It's a matter, I think what's happened here is the brush has got a bit dry from, there we go, there we are. Now what you've got to be careful of here is that you're going to know that you have to take some of the stuff off. It's a matter of putting it on and then taking it off, but because everything on here is very delicate and can be easily knocked off, just a little bit of care, just not to go too hard, and apply the wash accordingly. Let's get another brush, I think. There we go, a bit of a wider brush, it'll give us more of a chance to get things on. Don't put it on too thick, because what this is going to do, if you haven't seen a gunk wash before, this is going to add a patina. It's just going to give that look, change the colour slightly, as you can see, as you saw on the back before, how it changes the colour of the engine, and you'll think, oh, what have I done? Have I done too much? If you think you've done too much and you don't like the effect, just some odourless thinners and it'll all come off again. Now oil paints will allow you ages. You can work on it, add more, take some off, put some on, and keep going until you're happy, until your heart's content. You see, we're not using that much, it's going on though. And just keep working it in, get it around the engine itself and over the rockers, these bits on the top of the engine here, the valves, rockers for the valves. In fact, I think what we'll do, we'll actually leave them and we'll give them another wash later on. I'm just hoping that you can see this as the colours and that as it darkens down. Right, I'll just get on now and press the fasty forwardy button and get the rest of this gunked up. Okay. Okay, that's that bit done then. We could always try again and put a bit more on if you want to, as I said. But now it's time to take our dark cloth, because hopefully the dark cloth won't affect the white balance. But it doesn't matter what colour cloth you do. And then we're just going to rub it off. And what you can do, if you rub, see the lines along here, if you rub in a downward direction or upward direction just across the lines themselves, it will leave a layer of the wash just as it's sort of gathered, as the oil and the gunk of the engine has gathered on sort of raised surfaces. Now we've got to remember that they're not going to be really dirty. The engineer, the mate, will have tried to keep his engine clean. If an engineer keeps his engine clean, wipes up all the drips, etc. as it goes along, and I've just broken that bit off, but never mind, we'll put that back on shortly. As I said, you need to be careful on here. I've just broken that valve off there. As I said, you need to be careful that you don't break these things. Perhaps a better idea would be some cotton buds now, just to get in and follow the paintbrush where it was put on earlier. Just by rubbing it up and across the raised surfaces in the sort of in the opposite direction to the raised surfaces, you'll leave some of the oil in there to give a good impression. And we can already see that just by that one application already the engine is starting to look good and realistic. Just taking some of the oils off along the rocker covers. Now obviously down here always a pointy stick. We need a pointy stick. Just in here, inside the valves, behind everything in there, is all the detail where your brushes your brush and your rag or your Q-tip are not going to get, so we could really end up with a real clagginess in there. But what we'll do, I think what we'll do for them is we'll give them a sort of a more liquid wash, and we'll run some oil, engine grease, paint down into them, and also we'll look around at the valve springs, these in here, because certainly they wouldn't, after some use, the green paint on them wouldn't be as good as that, so we'll give it an effect of some washes in there as well. Right, so once again I'll get this lot cleaned up. It's just a matter of finding all the parts, the bits of oil that you want to take off, and we'll come back and we'll do some washes on the parts that we couldn't get to, but it's looking good already. I'm already quite pleased with that, apart from knocking that piece off. But never mind. Right, you can see in there, see how it's all coming together now. Yeah, I'm really getting pleased with this. And as I say, there's the back. I did try that earlier on. Nobody's ever going to see it. So you can have a practice on the back first, see how it goes, and then come back, and when you know how to do it, you can have a go on the front. Right, I'm going to get a little bit of a wash made now. I'll clean this bit up a bit more, then I'll make a wash, and we'll have a look at getting some of these valves and things along the top here done. Alright, 2 minutes, well, seconds to you. Right, here we go. Here's the next stage. I did say that we'd use the oil that was in the pallet. I'll finish it all up, so there's not going to be any waste, and there's just enough in there of the engine oil just to make a nice little wash. I've also taken some of the Starship filth, and we're going to make a little wash with that. Just use some odourless thinners. And what I do, rather than trying to pour it out and make a mess, just a pipette and just drop some into the colours. It's not a matter of thinning, as I always say, it's not a matter of making the oil thin, it's a matter of colouring the oil. You want really watery, a coloured thinner rather than a thin colour, if you know what I mean. So we can use our brush as before and just mix them up. So we can just draw it around the edge. So we use some of the colour that's in the thinner. There's that flash again. Right, I'm using the blackness of the Starship filth to colour up some of these rocker springs here, and I'm just dabbing them on just to colour them down. We'll come back to them again later on when it's all dried up. These oils are going to take about a week to really go off, and after that we can go on to the next stage. If you're just going to do the wash and then give it a coat of varnish, I'd certainly think about 5 days to let the oil colour out. Now then, if we can get some really thin thinners and just drop it in there, almost like a pin wash inside, and just touching and going across the tops of the rocker arms. It's really translucent. Being a thinned colour, I think we'd actually need a little bit more in that black. I'll try and do this with one hand without knocking everything over. And you can see as well the reason for wearing the gloves. There we are, that's looking a bit better now. It's really thin and runny, so we can just touch and it will run inside to the cylinders and on top of the cylinders as well. Although once again, not many people are going to see this far in, but it's just a peace of mind. You know you've done it. And the flash, I think it's a reflection from the white balance. I must save up and buy another camera. And that's getting all in there. It's almost like a pin wash. Just going across the top of the valves now. What I'll probably do, hopefully, if I remember, I'll take some pictures and put some still pictures up that you might be able to appreciate it better at the end of the show. The black just gives a bit of a contrast as well. to the brown of the engine grease. I'm just running some into the edges. And once again, once it's dried off, we can take off any overpaint. Down here on the engine block, the base of the engine, the colours are not going to really show out, but that will certainly not going to show up on the camera. But you can see if you give them a coat of paint, once they dry out, once the thinness dries out, it'll leave that grubbiness. And at the same time, we can do some pin washes around some of the equipment. That's on the bulkheads. This is how we do the bulkheads as well. We can go straight onto that, just adding some pin washes. See how just trying to make everything stand out. And we can pick up some of the pipe work. And the equipment. Now I don't know if you can see, I'll bring the other bulkhead in, when I can find it. Where's it at? I don't know if you can see the difference in these two, because I think the white balance is going to callous it out. There is, if you see in there, there is a slight difference between the two. This one here, this one, the bolts and rivets around the door have all been picked out with a pin wash. The bulkhead itself has been given a gunk wash just with the engine grease. I've given it a colour with the engine grease. In the others, it's been given, in the other compartments, it's been given a wash. The bulkheads have been given a wash with Starship filth, more of a black than a brown. But this one, I would be thinking that in an engine room with the fumes and the burning oils and things like that, everything's going to take on that sort of oily, sticky, like patina. So it's I've given it more of a coat, more of a brownish coat in the with the engine grease. That, see in there like that. See that you can see the sort of difference. It's a very subtle difference. It's more it's better to see it in real life than it is on the video. Just catching the different colour in there. But that's all we've done. We're just giving it once again a gunk wash, as we've done with the engine. We'll do the same in here as well. This has been given a bit of a gunk wash already. But we'll let these dry now. And we'll come back in a few days time when it's all dried, and we'll do some streaking, dry brushing and things like that, and to make the details sort of pop. But in the meantime, I will be giving this a coat of the engine oil gunk wash, and once again being careful not to sort of knock any detail off, and we'll get it all done like that. Right, okay, let's get on with this and move on. See you shortly. Okay, right. Giving it a few days to let the gunk wash go off. 4 or 5 days will probably do it. And one thing about oils as well is that you can, because it takes so long to dry, that if you look at them the day after you've been to bed, you get up, have a look at it next day, and you spot that something's not quite right, you can still have a go at it, because it takes a little while to go off. So, but we need to let it go off before we can do the next stage. And what we're going to do, we're going to apply some little streaks of filth, bit of oil staining and such like that, and we're going to have a look at some rust streaks as well. Now this is a new product I've got. I haven't actually tried it yet, apart from just this little bit here. Just wanted to see how it went on, so I could show you how to do it. Right, what we're going to need for this, we'll just put this out the way a minute. I've zoomed in, so I have to excuse me if I wobble the camera. It's just right over the desk at the moment. Right, what we're going to need, obviously we're going to need some Starship filth. In this case, I've got the MIG oil brusher in Starship filth. The black is going to add just a little bit of a contrast because the engine grease is a bit of a browny type colour. So this will look more like it's had some thick oil stains on it. We've got that, some odourless thinners, you know. If you've got odourless thinners, yeah, brilliant. If you haven't got them, just some of the thinners will be fine. You can use that. We've just got some Starship filth in the tube, just in case we need any. Just keep it at hand. Some brushes, just to apply this with. Because we're doing some oil streaking, some brushes. Some kitchen roll. I'm trying not to put it in the camera, otherwise it messes up the white balance. A palette, just for dropping some of the odourless thinners in. You can drop your brush into the bottle, but I'd like to try and keep it as contaminant free as possible. And this is the new product that I'm going to use. It's the MIG rust streaking effects. I'm going to have a go at this. I've not used it before. It's a bit like a wash. Yeah, obviously you can make your own washes, but I like the convenience. I know you do pay a little bit more, but for the convenience, yeah, excellent. Right, let's have a go at the MIG oil brusher washing first. Now, I'm going to try and do this, and I do apologise because thought I'd sorted this camera out. Excuse me. I'd sat with it for the last half hour and it hasn't flashed once. But as soon as I start filming, it starts again. If anybody's got any ideas why it should be doing that, please drop me a line. I've tried everything, and I'm about, hopefully at Christmas, somebody will buy me another camera, but never mind. Right, the oil brusher. Let's give it a go. Give it a shake. If you haven't seen these before, brilliant little invention. They're a plastic bottle. You can see what they are, clear, so you can actually see what's in them. That's the colour it's going to be. That's sort of a browny black type colour. And they come with a soft. They're a bit like yeah, they come with a brush, a bit like an eyeliner, a lady's eyeliner. Yeah, so if anybody sees you using these, make sure you point out, leave the label on, it is an oil brusher and not some mascara. Right, what we do is this, apply it, and as you draw the brush out, it sort of leaves the correct amount on the brush so it doesn't overload. And also, with these, you can knock them over and it doesn't fall out. Hurrah for that. Hurrah for not spilling things. Right, let's have a go. All we need to do with this, I'll try and fetch it in and get as close as possible, is just apply in sort of, not all over, you just need to apply just a dot. If hopefully you could see that, just a dot, usually where there's a bit of a gap, so that if oil had spilt, it would find its own way into a gap, and then from there it will run down the engine. So just in there like that, just bring it down, just touching it on. And down here, it is black down here, but the colour of the oil brush of the Starship filth will sort of show up. Just put it into the crevices as well, into the corners where if you look at an engine, you'll find that oil will sort of find its way into all the gaps and nooks and crannies and then run out from there and hold itself in because of the capillary action. It will hold itself in between two plates or in between a piece of casting and the engine, like that. So that's all we need to do. We don't need a lot of it, just a couple of touches, just some down here, and we leave it. That's all we do. We just leave it now. Just let it go off for 10 minutes and then we can get on to the next stage. But in the meantime, while we're doing that, while that's going off, we can have a look at the new streaking grind. I'm going to be quite keen to have a go at this. It's worked out quite well so far. You can see a little bit on here where I've just had a go. This part of the engine room here is the engine bed, obviously, and it will go down into the bilge. There's not a lot of wear and tear in the bilge. It's usually where all the excess water, fluids and everything else goes as they open the hatch on the bridge fin or on the deck. Usually if there's a drop of water that escapes inside the boat, it will all run down eventually into the bilges. And from the bilges it's then pumped back out to sea, or even the wastewater can be used to trim the boat. It can be pumped from one tank at the back to the front and vice versa, things like that. So right, get ourselves a little bit, open that over there and make sure it's out of the way so you don't knock it over. A brush. In this case we've got a wash brush. Not sure what size that is, but it's probably enough. Just get it ready. Yeah, just get it ready. Same applies with this. What you're going to find is that you won't just have rust just appearing everywhere. It'll usually appear from damaged paint, where the paint's been chipped or something like that. I haven't done any chipping on here, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to do some of these rust streaks around these openings in the bilge plates, as though it's sort of a natural wear. As I was saying, there won't be much wear in the bilges because people aren't down there that often to knock them about, so the paint will stay fairly good. It'll maybe get chipped or something with a bit of debris, but anywhere around edges and such like that where the paint becomes a little bit thinner, it's going to start and break down over time as I try not to knock the camera. So right, we'll have a go. All we do again is once again just hopefully you can see this. Let's try and bring it in a little bit closer without it going out of focus, and just touch and paint a little bit on there. That's all we need. That's all we need for that. This is this wash actually comes out of a vehicle set, Rusty Vehicles. Oh, there's a flash again. Rusty Vehicles from Ammo of MIG. There's a few in there: streaking rust, track wash, and a light rust wash. So I might use the other one as well. So we're just going to touch these into the corners. And then once again, just leave them a little bit. Don't need to do them all, you can just pick out a couple here. And what you'll find with rust, if you have a look at any rust anywhere, especially where it's sort of washed down a panel, you'll find it'll start off quite wide at the top, and then it'll run down into a point. So that's what we're going to try and replicate. So we'll leave them a little bit. And then while that's drying off, we can go back now, and we should be almost ready for doing the Starship filth washes. So right, what we're going to get, a little bit of odorless thinners. Now I just take a pipette and I'll just put some into a pallet over here. Not wanting to waste the rest and not wanting to get it knocked over, put the top back on. Right, we then take a smaller brush and a towel, take some thinners on the brush itself and tick it off. This one's been used for the, I forgot that it was used in here, so there's a little bit on there. Never mind, we'll get another one. So we can wash that and then just take off the excess, and then we can start streaking. Remember the days of the streakers? Yeah, I used to streak across football pitches and things like that. But that's not this type of streaking. This is the streaking. And we're just going to pull some of the streaking grime down. Sorry, we're going to pull some of the Starship filth down. Now if it doesn't go right, one advantage of this is that you just apply a little bit more thinner and you can take it off. But you'll have to be aware that unless you give the gunk wash a coat of varnish, you're going to take off the varnish underneath, the gunk underneath as well. Now I think that the two of these techniques can go together. The gunk wash and this can work quite well. So we see how it's starting to grime it up a little bit. As I say, we don't need a lot, just a touch. Where else? I forgot where we put the streaking grime. There. What you'll find here, if I find a pointy stick, what you'll find here with this ridge along here, that the oil will sort of naturally gravitate along the top edges before falling off. So you can replicate that by taking a really small brush. Get a tiny brush like that, and you can drag this along them edges. In fact, what you could do, you could actually, instead of drying your brush off, just touch it on and it'll almost give it a pin wash. It'll drag it along. Excuse me. So we can carry on and drag these down now. We don't want a lot. We don't want to overcook it, make it look too grubby and grimy. As I said, the engineer will be looking after his engine. He'll be carrying a sort of, every engineer carries an oily rag in their pocket just to clean up and clean the oils, because as I said, if the engineer has a clean engine, he'll know then when there's an oil leak and he'll be able to trace where it's coming from. So that is that one, and I'm going to call that about done really. It doesn't need any more than that. The gunk wash is giving it a good definition. The streaking, the Starship filth, that one, has given it a second sort of degree of tonal difference. All it needs to do now is give it a dry brush. And we'll probably dry brush that. We'll let this go off for another couple of days, let these all dry now, and then we'll get on and give it some of the rocker arms and the valve springs. We'll give them a dry brush with a silvery type paint just to make it pop, and then everything should be ready. Right, now then we can have a look now. I need to clean the brush up. We can have a look now at this rust. Doesn't take very long for it to go off and become workable. Just needs to dry and settle, and then once again, I've got a bit of a tickle in my throat tonight. Never mind. All we can do with this is once again same technique and just pull it down. Thus, just a quick brush. Now what I would do here on this one, excuse me, but right, I think that's gone now. Right, what we could do here on this one, get it back into focus a little bit, is as the rust washes down, it'll catch. There's a very imperceptible edge on the top of there, usually by the paint. It will track around and then come off again. So it'll come down, track around there. I think I need a little bit more of streaking rust. I've not quite got enough on there to drag it down. So we can just touch that in there again. Once again, because we've given it a coat of gloss varnish, it's protecting everything else underneath. So if it's not right, we could just take it off and start again. Just take some of your thinners and wash it all off and start again. So that will come down there, come around there like that, and then carry on down. This is a little bit thick over here, but never mind, we can work on that. As we see here, we've done a little bit too much up here, so just a damp brush with the thinners. There we go. I'm just trying to work it. You can work with these for as long as you want until you're happy with it, and I'm not happy with that one, so I'll just wash it off. Try and keep the streaks running vertically, because unless they hit something as the streak goes down, it won't change direction. So next time you're out in town, or next time you're around the factory or anything like that, just have a look at how rust works and streaks, even on road signs. Everywhere, it's everywhere. Everywhere you look, backs of trucks. Wife often catches me sort of looking at the back of a truck or driving up close to the back of a truck, so I can have a look at the weathering on the back axle and see where the muck and the grime has gathered. I was looking at one the other day that had hydraulic piston rams on the back of it for lifting a loading tail on the back of a recovery truck. It had hydraulic rams, and it was interesting to see how on the rams itself, just around all the connections where the hydraulics are connected, all the screwing connections, that the thick road grime had gathered, but the rest of the hydraulic ram was clean. But because of the hydraulic oils and the oils that has been spilt as it's been maintained, the road grime was grabbing onto that and just making it dirty around the joints. So that's the sort of things you look for. Right, and that's that one done. That's all it needs. Doesn't need a lot. And you see here, that one's a little bit thicker on one side than the other, but I think it works quite well. Now don't go overboard. Don't try doing too much. As I always say, less is more. You can always put it down and come back tomorrow or another day and have a look at it again, and then you can add more. With this one, the streaking effects, what's going to happen though is that when this goes off, it's sort of going to be fairly stuck, so you need to be making sure that you've really got it right the first time. But as for the oils, the Starship filth and the engine grease and things like that, it'll remain workable for a few days. but that's that done. I think that engine is looking pretty good now. Let's just have a look at the other camera, see if you can see it better on the other camera. There we go. No, it's because of the white balance and the white in the engine bed, it's not bringing it out brilliantly because of the white, the lights. So we'll go back to the other one, and I think we can get a better shot of it there. Alright, that's that bit done. I'll let that finish and go off and dry, and come back to it when it's time for some dry brushing. In the meantime, we'll go and have a look at how to weather the deck in the engine room. Right, here it is. I've already given it a coat of, I've used gunmetal, sprayed it with gunmetal. Spraying gunmetal, actually, when you spray the metal paints, they look far superior to brush painting them. So I've done that, and we can get ready. I'll go get the stuff, and we'll come back and grubby this up. See you in a moment. And we're back. Right, we've put the oils and the washes to one side for one moment, because as we're going to do the deck, we're going to use some pigments, medium rust, light rust and black. I'll probably be using more of the black than the other two, because as we know, if a piece of metal is continually in use, it won't actually get rusty because the rust will be kept worn off. The metalwork itself, it'll become shiny. This is a metal deck in the engine room, a checker plate deck, and I've given it a coat, as I've already mentioned, I've given it a coat of gunmetal. And now all we're going to do is take a scruffy brush, and there's still some pigment in that from somewhere. Never mind, a scruffy brush will do. Oh look, yeah, it'll still do, never mind. And all we're going to do, I'll take some medium rust first, and really I make this up as I go along. Just taking a dab of that in there, try not to wobble the camera too much, and then just what I'm going to do here is just brush it into the edges. Brush it in and slap it on. It'll probably look as though it won't be doing much at first, but believe me, it will be taking effect. I'm not going to use much, it's just going to bring out some highlights maybe in the corners and things like that. It's not going to grip at anything yet, because there's no fixer or anything on, and it's just going to slide about on top of the metallic paint. I'll try if you can get it in shot, you can see it. It is a bit messy, so wear the gloves. Everything about this is messy. And just get it in around some of these edges, that's all we need. See, I've actually put an old cutting mat down because this does get a bit messy, and we can see already it's sort of taking effect. Just holding it in there. That's not one, not just picking it up off the cutting mat, and a bit more out of the bottle. Put that in there, I'll fire it across. Goes in there as well. Scrub it in. And actually, I think the light rust, the medium rust in this case, this is 3005 from Ammo of MIG. Well, it does just the job. I've actually gone across a lot of it here because I'll be going across it the rest in a minute with the black. So yeah, just scrub it in, and it tones that shininess down. Just brush that out of the way. That's probably how the brush got all dusty from last time. Right, we can do the black now. Just the same stuff. This is AMIG 3001, a black pigment. And we can scrub that in as well, and this will grubby it down. What we're going to do is use this more along the walkway where people have trod, and grubby it down. And it really is that simple. People talk lots about going into, oh, you need to weather it up and put this in and things like that. Just have a go at yourself. I'm just making this up as I go along. Obviously I've thought about what I'm going to use, but then just to apply it, scrub it in, just as I said, slap it on, don't worry about it, because once again, if you don't like it, just take some thinners to it and wash it off. There, we're looking something like now. There's a little bit of a rust texture around the edges, probably where the feet of the crew are not sort of getting into all the time, but round here in the middle there's oily boots and scuffs and such, dirtying the gangway down. So I polish all that in there. And we could even, I don't know what this little piece here is in the side, but we can give that a bit of a coat with a pigment as well, just to tone that brightness down a bit. We missed it out from the streaking from the engine before, but now's a chance to dumb it down a little bit. Yeah, look, there's more on the bench than there is on there, and that is once again as easy as it is. That's it. We can fix it if you wanted to with I've got some up here. Where is it at? I can't find it. I don't know where that's gone. I do have some pigment fixer somewhere, and I can't find it. I'll have to go and have a look for that. Where's that gone? People come in the workshop and move things, but who want to move pigment fixer? Right, I'll go find my pigment fixer. I'll probably fix this with some pigment fixer. I'm intrigued now. Where's it gone? And I haven't tidied up either, so I can't lose stuff if I haven't tidied up. Let's have a look at it. I'll be with you in a moment. No, I'm intrigued. I've lost it. Right, I'm going to fix that with some pigment fixer, just to fix it on, just so it doesn't brush off. And I'm going to eventually be gluing a couple of crew members to the deck in there as well, some of the engineers in the deck. But that's it, that's that bit done. That's the engine done as well. I'm just letting that going to dry off, and then, as I say, we'll come back and do some dry brushing on it. So ready for the dry brushing. I'll go and get the dry brushing stuff out. Flash. See you in a minute. Bye. Right then, the last stage of the weathering for this engine. Well, as much as I'm going to do, you could carry on and do a bit more if you wanted to. What we're going to finish it off with is a little bit of dry brushing, just to highlight one or two metallic parts and things. Really just another matter of making the detail sort of pop. If you do know anything about engines, you'll know that when they are painted in the factory, they're sort of stove enamelled. The colour is actually baked on to the engine, so they probably wouldn't take very much chipping at all, if any. So the bits we're going to highlight are the bits of the light sort of metallics and such like that, but if we get it wrong, if we sort of highlight the wrong sort of place, it doesn't matter. It's just there to make the sort of details pop. Like what we'll do some here. I've already had a little start on the rocker arms at the top, just to sort of get things moving along on here, the rocker arms, and along the backs of the cylinder heads themselves as well. Although, as I said, they'll be at the back of the engine, so you won't really see them. So we're going to more or less concentrate down here on some of the lighter sort of metal work, some of the pipe work that might get sort of knocked and chipped as they're going about the daily duties and things like that. Just picking up some edges. We're not going to do too much. We're just going to sort of, as I said, just highlight those sort of areas. All we need for this then, just move that out of the way a little bit. A bit of a mixing palette, some dry brushes, little short stubby ones. You can make your own. You can cut some old paint brushes down to make them sort of sticky and stiff. Some white, well, not white, any colour sort of tissue, just to sort of wipe some off. And the paint, I'm going to use a Vallejo silver in this. That's near enough. You could just use some metallics as we've used before, but I think this will do the job. So we'll give it a shake up and just put a little drop. We don't need too much, just put a little drop in the colour palette. Just trying to keep it out of the way, just trying to stop this flashing on the camera. I think what it is, it's down to the exposure on the camera. I can't turn the exposure down enough, so that's what's causing it to flash. I'm going to have to experiment with some different lighting or arrange the lighting around here. I've just got my little pinch pliers just to sort of hold it, because it's a really weird shape, this, and it keeps falling over. Right, so we get that in there. Let's see if we can fetch you in a little bit more. Right, that's it like that. So all we do with this, if you haven't done dry brushing before, this is how you go about it. I'm sure if you've been watching these, you'll know how to do dry brushing, but just to recap, not everybody does, and they enjoy watching the builds. So we just take a dab of it on the dry brush, and then we take the cloth and we just rub it off, just almost taking the excess paint off the dry brush. I took too much off there, and hence that's why it's called dry brushing, because we're almost making the dry brush dry. Now what we're going to do here is pick up just on some of the tops of these rocker arms. Just try and fetch it closer and fetch it a bit into focus for you. Because of the shine on this, it's a bit difficult to get it into film, but what we'll do, we'll come back around here to this I can't think what this is on top here, but just dry brushing some of the raised edges and the curve on the can itself. You see that, how it's beginning to pick that up? As I say, what I'll do at the end of the video, I'll try and take some pictures, and I'm sure that you can see it a lot better then. It does take quite a long time using oils and oil brushes and things like that. It does take quite a long time to work through this process, because you need to let everything sort of dry and go off. Picking some of this pipe work up just on the corners where it's going to get knocked. Edges and protrusions will get knocked, and we could pick up some of these bolts on the engine covers, and maybe some down here, just as you go, as you feel it right. So we can, I think you can already see on the camera here how this dry brushing is picking out the heads of these bolts. Obviously on and off for servicing, repairs, the paints are going to get taken off them. So there, keep going along like that. It's really a bit of fun, this. You can enjoy doing it. As I say, do as little or as much as you want. But I find that the oils a little bit too much on there, but that's not a problem. It looks alright. If it looks right, it is right. The effects of the oils on this as well give it a realistic sort of shiny, greasy type look. So I would recommend trying, have a go with some oils. They do really work. And if you've never used oils before, it's a really nice medium to get into. I'm just starting to take it up with some figure painting. I'm getting the idea of blending, working colours in, working with oils, and it's not as difficult as you may think. It's really relaxing as well. You see how here we're picking these details, and maybe a little bit on this thrust bearing here, and some on the nuts on the front. Don't need a lot of paint. Keep your brush dry, hence dry brushing. I'll back up. It's sort of, I'm not working in any particular order, I'm just doing it as I look around and think, well, yeah, that might look nice. Around the front of the engine. And maybe some on the hand wheel as well. You won't initially see the dry brushing at first, and then all of a sudden it'll just start appearing. You'll see it, you know, the paint goes on very thinly, a little bit at a time, and just as you keep brushing, it'll just sort of magically appear. And I'll do some more on it. Go back to these bolts down here because that worked quite well before. Now I'm using a small dry brush. You can make different sizes. I've got another one here, a medium one, a little bit bigger, but I think for this it's just going to be too big, so I'll just work away with a small dry brush just to get into some of them and crevasses and such. I'm working it in, and you see it already there. If I fetch it forward, try and keep it in focus for you, get back in at focus a little bit, you can see already there how it's building it up. As I said, just keep going. Some of these webs down here might get a bit of a kick or a knock with a spanner. Now the deck's going to go across here. We'll go back, so speaking of the deck, we'll just get that as well, because we could do a little bit on here. Remember this bit before? How we can see now how all the rust and such, it has been fixed. I did find my fixative. Yeah, there's the AK pigment fixer. Just fixed it down with that so it becomes quite durable. Once again, but we can, on these edges here, pick up with a dry brush. The constant wear and tear of the boots will sort of grind a little path along it. And just using the dry brush, it'll pick up the checker plate. And it'll add another dimension, because we've already got the dirt and grime and a bit of rust on the bottom. Let's try and fetch it back into focus a bit. Where are we going? There we go. just take off the excess, and we can then, not enough, get that into there. Once again, no need to slap it on this time, just work your way gently, adding all the time, building it up, and then you'll, as I say, you'll see it appear, and then you think, oh, I can stop now. What I'm doing here is just making a little sort of path down the middle of the gangway, because obviously people walk down the centre of the gangway, the deck, they'll walk down the centre of it more than the sides, so that will appear a little bit more shiny as the rust and grime's been worked away. And hopefully we can see it starting to come out in there, see it as we work along here. But we've still got the grime and the pigments, and how the edges have got a little bit rusty around the edge of the decking. It'll be a steel decking, so it will rust, but not great heaps of thick rust. It will just be sort of rusty coloured. So that's that one. We'll keep going on that. I'll just finish this bit off actually, I think. I'm nearly there. Just once again on the edge. And this will be by the bulkhead door, the watertight door, so that's where people will step as they come in. So there's a little bit more wear on there. Yeah, that'll do for that one, I think. And that will go, I think it goes that way around. No, it doesn't. It will go that way around in there. It will go in there like that. So you can see already that most of the weathering and such that we've done in the engine is going to be hidden underneath the deck, but not to worry, we know it's been done. So that will go in there like that, looking all good. Right, let's take this out without breaking anything. Okay, a little bit more on here. Just some, oh, can't see it. Just some of the edges on the pipe. Remember where the pipes bend? They're going to take a bit more hammer. Edges and protrusions. That's what's going to take the hammer, and paint's going to get knocked off on for the dry brushing. There we go, in there like that. Right, as I say, I'll try and take a few pictures once it gets finished and add them on to the end of the video, so don't leave before the video finishes, because you'll get a chance to see some of the photographs, hopefully. And that it will be about it for the engine room. I've obviously got all the rest of it all to put together yet, but you saw how the rest of the compartments went together, and I won't hold the video up any longer while I get it together. But that's about it for the engine room. I'll just go and get it together now, and then get it finished and move on to the next compartment. I'm probably not going to carry on and do some build videos for the next compartments, because I think you've seen most of it. The process is exactly the same. I'll take some pictures as I go along, maybe do a little bit of a quick show and tell, and then we can get moved on to the outside. There's a bridge fin to build yet, and then the outside, and we can start all the fun and weathering and preparing the hull for the outside, which is going to be an exciting bit of part of the build. And then I've got 1 or 2 ideas what I'm going to do for the clear plastic on the hull so that you can see through it. I've yet to decide of how I'm going to do it, but I won't reveal that just yet. You'll have to keep watching. So that's about it from me, Ted from emodels.co.uk. If you want this kit, it is in stock at the moment. Go and have a look on the website and decide for yourself whether you're going to do it. But yeah, it really is a good kit. It's a big kit. It's a great kit. Lots of detail inside it. That's what's taking so long, because it's getting all this detail done. Right, I'm going to leave it at that and get this cracked on, get it put together and get on with the rest of it, so I don't need to hold you up any longer, and we'll get on with the hull. Alright, so I'm going to leave you for now, but go along and have a look at the website, emodels.co.uk. Don't forget, come along and have a look on a Monday night at the eModels YouTube page, where me and Fox will do our Monday night bit of a shenanigans and chat live stream. Have a look at what's in store and everything else, and we'll keep you updated on there as well as to what else is happening in eModels. And anyway, I'm waffling on now and I can't think of anything else to say, so see you all next time. Thanks for watching. Don't forget, hang about for the video, hang about for the photographs. See you then. Bye.